With movies and TV shows being prime intellectual properties at theme parks, we're now seeing video games turning into films and TV shows, and of course, some of those turning into theme park rides and lands, like Uncharted at Portaventura and the soon-to-be in 2027 Minecraft Land at Chessington World of Adventures. Universal partnered with Nintendo in May 2015 with Super Nintendo World, a fully immersive themed land, opening in Japan in 2021. With Harry Potter utilising different Wizarding World locations across their parks, it creates a multi-destination trip for fans who want to experience everything. Looking at Universal, they've collaborated with Nintendo as opposed to a specific game, so it feels safe to assume that other Nintendo properties will be coming to their parks. Epic Universe has fueled rumours of Zelda being the next game to be featured, thanks to very obvious references in the Nintendo shop. But let's be real, Pokémon is one of the biggest franchises in the world. Not just in gaming, but in anime, trading cards, and just pop culture overall. We've already seen Pokémon appear in parades at Universal Japan since the spring of 2022 with the No Limit Parade. There are, if you haven't heard, rumours that the Spider-Man ride at that very park will become either Pokémon or Detective Pikachu themed. At some point in time though, I think it will be inevitable that a park will receive a whole land dedicated to Pokémon. In this video, I will be investigating why a Pokémon theme park land is coming to Universal Studios Orlando. New detectives may join by pressing the subscribe or follow buttons. Many thanks. With Agency HQ being located in the UK, my heart would simply love to see this land at Universal Great Britain. With Chessington World of Adventures leaning into being an IP-based park, it would make sense for Pokémon to come in to rival it further. I mean, with the likes of Jumanji in previous years, plus Paw Patrol and Minecraft in the next 2 years, Pokémon could easily compete. How do you rival one of the largest gaming franchises in the world, called Minecraft? Well, you bring in an even bigger gaming franchise called Pokémon. However, there's very good reason why I actually think this land will be in Orlando, Florida. The Wizarding World that occupies the Universal Parks in Orlando is essentially the framework as to why I believe this whole scenario is an inevitability. The genius behind the Wizarding World is that each land, that being Hogsmeade, Diagon Alley and the Ministry of Magic, are split across 3 parks. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll want to visit all 3. And with them not being in just one park, you're going to need to visit all 3 Universal Parks. I mean, yeah, you could potentially get a multi-day pass and visit all 3 in one day, but realistically, you're likely to give each park a full day, seeing as you've already paid, and there's plenty of other attractions within each park to keep you entertained. That's 3 whole days that Universal has your time and your money. Why Universal Studios? Why not the other parks? Well, we can certainly see expansion pads in Epic Universe. Donkey Kong Country is an expansion to Super Nintendo World, but with Pokémon being such a massive franchise, it would make sense to give it its own land and not just an add-on to a portal which already exists. However, like with the Wizarding World examples, I think it'll most certainly be in a different park. We do look towards Islands of Adventure, and rumours at Universal Studios Japan is that the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, which closed in January 2024, will be themed to Pokémon, or more specifically, Detective Pikachu. We do already have this ride in Islands of Adventure, but the catch is that Universal won't want to get rid of their Marvel land. Yeah, Disney do own Marvel now, but the contract for their rights was put together many years ago, back when Marvel were on the verge of bankruptcy, and simply put, it's everlasting as long as Universal maintain the area in a first-class manner. This same agreement does also limit Disney further, as they're not allowed to use any characters or their related families west of the Mississippi River that Universal are using. It's why each of the rides features a character from a certain core team or comic. So the Incredible Hulk Coaster ticks off the Avengers, the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is, of course, Spider-Man, Doctor Doom's Fearfall comes from the Fantastic Four catalogue, and Storm Force Accelatron is centred around Storm, a key figure within the X-Men team. Whilst all of the Marvel stuff may sound confusing, it does suggest that Universal won't want to give this up and give Disney back a lot of their own toys to play with. On the other side of the lake, though, is the Lost Continent, which currently consists of 3 places to eat and a fountain. No rides, but a fountain. We don't need a magnifying glass to see that this area will surely be next to be redeveloped. The rockwork and adventurous tones do seem to lend themselves quite nicely to another Nintendo franchise, that being The Legend of Zelda. A film is currently in development by Sony for 2027, so it wouldn't be amiss to see Universal head this way. This just leaves us with Universal Studios, the arguably weakest of the three Universal parks. Diagon Alley is certainly a pull because of the Wizarding World trilogy of lands, but otherwise, the park is a little weak. A Pokémon Land would be a welcome addition and upgrade, a massive glow up with the presumably new Ghostbusters roller coaster taking the place of Rip Ride Rocket. Unlike the Marvel situation, The Simpsons is a land in which owning the rights is directly funding Disney, and Universal won't want that. With the contract likely to end in 2028, it will be a vacant spot with a huge building to utilise, plenty of outdoor areas to walk through, and a backlot area or even the Men in Black ride and building to be renovated or demolished for extra land if needed. It's all well and good to think about where it would be, but what would it look like? The Wizarding World works as there are specific locations like Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley which can be brought to life in an immersive area. Whilst Pokémon has lots of different regions thanks to the array of games, plus each of the villages, towns and cities in each of these regions, there's not really a place that's specifically recognisable. The main parts of Pokémon are, of course, the Pokémon themselves, and so everything associated with them in terms of catching, training, battling, trading and collecting. Referencing Epic Universe, both the Isle of Berg and Wizarding World would be examples of how this Pokémon Land could look. The former being vibrant with sights out in the distance, green terrain and water areas and recognisable buildings throughout. However, the latter would be a bustling cityscape that hides the skyline and show buildings that surround it, with themed shops, billboards and references in windows to bring it all to life. Either of these ideas would make sense, without tying it down to a specific area, but more so a stylised area that's new, unique and specific to Universal. Kind of like how Rhyme City is a location specific to the Detective Pikachu games and film. Familiar and recognisable, but unique enough that it doesn't rely on having to look or be in any particular way, giving Universal a further level of creative control within the area. Pokémon Marts would be the shops. Merch galore. They'd be selling in-universe stuff like trainer gear, similar to the wand holders for the Wizarding World, but also standard land and park branded merch as well. There would be dining locations, ideally where the Pokémon are making the food like the Toads do in Super Nintendo World. Foods themed to different Pokémon, so something barbecue based around fire Pokémon, for example. There would even be screens of the Pokémon cooking, so you could see Charmander cooking food on the grill with his tail. I mean, this stuff just writes itself. Let's look at the Pokémon though. Seeing how fantastic the Toothless and Dart animatronics look in Epic Universe, this has to be the standard of meet and greets moving forward. Of course, these two examples are on all fours, and there are plenty of Pokémon like that. But there will certainly be improvements, and the bipedal robots will be perfect for those fan favourites, like Lucario and Greninja for example. There's usually a staff member at a meet and greet to keep an eye on things, and all they need to do is be dressed like a trainer, and you'd be keeping that immersion alive. With battles being a core principle within the franchise, the gyms become a huge staple within each of the games. This land has got to have a gym. Watching a Pokémon battle play out in front of our very eyes is exactly the kind of stage show we'd love to see. Imagine Waterworld or the Born Stuntacular. Two Pokémon facing each other, unleashing their moves which are displayed as spectacular stunts and effects. I'd love for all this to be very practical, but I think a combination of AR and real effects would allow for the Pokémon to be interchangeable, with the moves being either real, AR, or a synchronization of both. Imagine seeing it in AR through goggles, but then feeling the heat from a flamethrower in a 4D CinemaSaw way. It would be such a spectacle and would be a great way to bring capacity to the land and the park. It wouldn't be a theme park land without some sort of ride. There's going to have to be a main e-ticket ride, plus some supporting flats. If we are considering the Simpsons plot of land, then of course, right there is a big show building with a flying theatre ready to go. Retheme it all and straight away you've got a ride. However, a flying theatre doesn't really feel like the best option here. It would be easy enough to theme a coaster and its attributes to that of a similar Pokémon, so a flying coaster themed to Charizard or Dragonite, or maybe even a launch coaster themed to Jolteon Speed or similar. Actually, theming it to Pikachu and tying that in with like some sort of lightning speed makes a lot of sense, with Pikachu being obviously the poster boy for Pokémon. Koraidon and Miraidon would make for great bike coasters from Vekoma, but they just don't feel popular enough as a Pokémon to justify a coaster. However, removing the flying theatre or even Men in Black alien attack would mean taking out a dark ride that are so useful for variety, but also for getting out of that Florida heat. Let's see a Pokémon dark ride. Again, a story involving something from the games or anime, like thwarting Team Rocket with a sort of Secret Life of Pets style trackless dark ride system, following a narrative through different scenes, could really work. However, I think this relies on using characters that are known, so who becomes the protagonist? Is it Ash, known in the anime, or do we see a unique trainer for this universal land? Alternatively, if the Detective Pikachu ride is to happen over in Japan, then that would be a simple clone to make and would save the cost of development for a brand new ride. The franchise has plenty of spin-off games, and the core concept of Pokemon Snap would bring a trackless dark ride together with interactive features of taking photos of the Pokemon, just like in the game. A combination of animatronics, screens, and maybe AR headsets, quite similar to Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, would really bring it all to life. The interactions would allow you to interact with the Pokemon just like in the game, leading to certain scenarios and circumstances to then snap the best pictures. At the end of your ride, you could keep the pictures on your phone and log them there. The re-rideability of this would be massive, with guests wanting to uncover every photo and get the best high scores, storing them in an app on their phone. Maybe something similar looking to a Pokédex. As we've mentioned a few times now in this investigation, there are core pillars to the Pokemon franchise, and one of those is catching them all. Let's save the photos from the Dark Ride in a Pokédex app, just like how you can keep coins and stamps in the official Super Nintendo World app. Imagine that app, but for a Pokédex, collecting every Pokemon instead of stamps. It's almost like the Super Nintendo World app is the groundwork for this idea. Like the games around Super Nintendo World, this Pokemon Land would feature various interactives in which you can collect Pokemon. Catch them, trade them, battle them. It all ties in so well with what Pokemon is all about. Pokemon Go, but with real-world physicality and the addition of themed food and rides that make it a theme park. The Pokeball Plus accessory for the Let's Go series of games on the Nintendo Switch is a perfect example of how you can mimic catching Pokemon in the interactive land environment. Sound familiar? Of course it does. The Wizarding World has been doing this for years, with the purchasable ones that interact with the land, just like the power-up bands themed to Mario and his friends. This is obviously a huge upsell opportunity for Universal and would actually fit in so perfectly with the Pokemon franchise. I mean, there are literally over 1,000 Pokemon at the time of this investigation, and they wouldn't all have to be available from the start. You'd introduce a few to begin with, slowly bring in more as the years roll by. Oh, it's Halloween? Sure, bring out some ghost types. Christmas? Yeah, let's see the ice Pokemon. A fan of Pokemon is someone who likes collecting things, and annual pass holders always need new things to bring them back to the parks, such as seasonal events with new shows, parades, and foods to experience. You can localize this philosophy solely around the introduction of new Pokemon. The more that these ideas are discussed, the more it sounds real. There are so many facets to what Universal are doing with their parks and lands that tie in so well with the Pokemon franchise that it almost sounds too good to be true. However, at this moment in time, it's not true. It's still just an idea, but one that certainly seems highly plausible for the future. And with that, this investigation is complete. What are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with the ideas we brought to the table, like the Pokemon Snap Dark Ride? What do you think to the interactive features of catching Pokemon to save in the companion Pokédex app? Have we got the location completely wrong? We'd love to hear from all detectives out there doing their own work, so please report in by leaving a comment with this video. Many thanks for following along with this investigation, and from myself, Detective Miracle, that's case closed, and we'll see you next time.